Let's pick up immediately where we left off with the next 3 episodes, beginning with Molt Down.
The Molt, super painful stone scales, fire burps, uncontrollable volume shifts. It's all part of growing up dragon. Congrats! Oh, sorry.
This latest episode to be written by Josh Haber is another that turns out to be one of the best of the season. This time Spike is embarrassed when he gets a scaly blemish on his face, and anxious when it's followed by a breakout covering his body, fiery belching, and uncontrollable bursts of shouting. It turns out that he's molting, a natural process which all dragons go through, and worries that this means that he must move out of Twilight's castle to live on his own. The first thing that makes this episode stand out is just how relatable both the storytelling and characterizations are. As Spike goes through this phase of growing up and sees all the changes happening to him, Haber excellently captures these feelings of anxiety in ways that many of us can identify with. And we also get to really understand his concerns through some terrific use of series continuity, of which this episode has a plentiful amount of. Spike references the time when his growth spurt in Season 2's Secret of My Excess caused him to turn into a greedy monster, before Smolder informs him that molting is normal for all dragons, and is traditionally followed by them leaving their home to fend for themselves. Throughout the series, Spike has always been happy living his life with ponies as his family, but there have also been times when he's wondered where he stands in regards to his own species. Although he's made a good friend in Ember, he's never felt as connected to dragons as he has with ponies. And this is one of those times where he's worried that the Molt effect means that he'll have to leave the only home and family he's ever known. That makes his anxieties about this experience very believable. And it's all the more reassuring for him when Twilight tells him that whatever happens in the future, she'll be there to help Spike get through it. The appearance of an angry and hungry rock bird that grabs Sakura and Rarity while chasing after Spike leads the episode into a wonderful third act where the suspense and excitement continuously build and never let up for a moment, and finally lead up to Spike completing the molt process by sprouting a new pair of wings, allowing him to save his friends. This big special moment in his life is definitely a fantastic one for him. It's just a shame that thanks to the massive leaks of information that took place last Christmas, along with 6 then unfinished episodes including this one, it was likely spoiled for you months before the episode aired. In comparison to other major event episodes like Magical Mystery Cure and Crusaders of the Lost Mark, Molt Down never feels as momentous as it could, but it certainly doesn't disappoint either. A well-imagined and executed story that leaves the door open for some interesting ideas for future episodes, it gets a gold star score of 9.
We know all about friendship, and studying with you would be almost as good as being in class. But why would you help me? What's in it for you?
That's how friendship works. When you give from your heart, you don't expect anything back.
Beginning what would become an interesting story arc, Marks for Effort sees the CMC try to get into the School of Friendship, after Twilight turns them away for already knowing everything her curriculum teaches. After some unsuccessful attempts to show that there's more about friendship that they can learn, they instead turn their efforts to helping another student in need. Written by Nicole Duberg, this episode premiered to a mixed reception, and indeed delivers mixed results. While the Crusaders' failed attempts to get into Twilight's school aren't really that amusing, some of the humour in the first act still lands with a few laughs, like a Dead Poets Society reference when Twilight leaves Spike alone with her class for just a few seconds, or a brilliantly ad-libbed line by Tabitha St. Germain when Rarity refers to her sister as Repeaty Bell while she's being pestered. The episode's story becomes more intriguing with the introduction of the student that the CMC decide to help, a pony named Cozy Glow, voiced by Sunny Westbrook. Now before writing this review, I did watch the remaining Season 8 episodes, so knowing where the rest of the season goes from here did make this episode more interesting on a rewatch. Westbrook is excellent as Cozy, perfectly capturing the kind of tonally varied and balanced performance required to make this a compelling character. There's definitely something off about the way she speaks at times, but the idea that she might have an ulterior motive is never made too obvious. As the narrative shifts focus from the Crusaders trying to get into the school to helping Cozy with her studies instead, the time and tutoring she receives from them keeps the episode interesting throughout, and in the end, it really feels like Cozy has formed a good friendship with them as a result. The third act, however, is when things start to take a downturn. Twilight makes a good point at the start of the episode when she explains that the CMC already know a lot about friendship, and that attending her school would make them miss the academic lessons they need to learn from Cheerilee. But after Cozy fails a test, she scolds them by accusing them of setting her up to fail out of spite. I know that she wants her students to do well and is concerned when one of them suddenly fails a test badly, but jumping to conclusions and then ordering the CMCs to leave and stay away, without even letting them have a chance to speak, that's pretty nasty. But the scene did give us this moment.
Who is the Princess of Friendship? Your mom?
That was hilarious. Soon after, Cozy goes to see Starlight and explains that she failed her test intentionally, believing that doing so would help the Crusaders get to attend the school. This is a great way for Starlight to finally get a chance to play her guidance counselor role, especially as she was feeling like her job was a redundant one, and complete with empathy Coco, she does it really well. However, her desire to feel like a necessary member of staff at the school was only quickly mentioned at the start of the episode, and then completely forgotten about up until this point, making the inclusion of this scene feel somewhat tacked on. The episode concludes with Twilight making up for her earlier behaviour by letting the CMC be honorary graduates and tutors at the school, which does feel like a well-earned reward for their efforts in helping Cozy Glow. Let down by its third act shortcomings, Marks for Effort still holds up well enough as both a standalone narrative and a story that paves the way for future episodes to follow. Not one of the season's stronger installments, but still a good one. I'll give it a Silver Star score of 7.
Now I have everything I need.
In our final episode for this video, the Mean Six sees Twilight and friends head out on a camping retreat. But little do they know that Chrysalis has returned seeking revenge, and she and a team of meaner clones of the Six are roaming through the woods in search of the elements of harmony. Mike Vogel pens this comeback episode for the former Changeling Queen, and it's one that holds up surprisingly well despite some misleading promotion. Teased as an epic revenge story, The Mean Six is actually anything but, instead opting to be a light-hearted slice-of-life comedy that provides plenty of laughs. It's definitely different for a Chrysalis-themed episode, but perhaps that's fitting as she's now in a very different place. When last we saw her, she fled from the Changeling Kingdom after being dethroned when the Hive evolved and reformed at the end of Season 6. Refusing the same transformation and vowing revenge against Starlight, Chrysalis has decided to go it alone, concocting a plan using self-created clones of the main Six, only to end up with minions that are generally incompetent and unhelpful. Although characterised with rather limited creativity, as they bear many similarities to the original ponies' discorded versions from the Return of Harmony, watching this alternate Six act out of their elements still provides some amusing highlights. While the fake Twilight is particularly intriguing, recognising that her master can't execute her plan without her, while secretly plotting to double-cross her and steal the elements for herself. This former point is particularly notable, as while Chrysalis has always been a powerful villain, her power is one that she's always had to obtain from other sources, whether it be love from other ponies or the strength in numbers of her hive. Here she has neither to fall back on, making her a far more vulnerable character than we've seen before. While the narrative's main purpose seems to be laying the groundwork for a follow-up on a grander scale, this alternate perspective on its lead antagonist considerably helps this episode to hold up well on its own. There's some more fun moments to be had when members of both groups cross paths, causing confusion that, of course, leads to misunderstandings and arguments. The idea that none of the main six are able to differentiate their friends from their imposter counterparts may be rather unrealistic, but this conflict still helps to enhance the episode's positive moral about maintaining strong connections with your friends despite the occasional annoyance. A climactic sequence where the Tree of Harmony thwarts the Mean Six's attempt to steal the elements by melting them into tiny pieces of wood is a very cool way to seal their fates, even if the visuals in the final edit were toned down from the leaked version. Despite its unexpected approach and some flaws with its uneven script, The Mean Six is still a very entertaining episode, both as a self-contained story and a comeback for Chrysalis that sets things up really well for a potentially stronger return that I'm sure we'll get to see in Season 9. I'm going to give it a gold star score of 8. So that's the next 3 episodes down. As always, I'd love to know your thoughts, so please be sure to let me know in the comments. On the next video, I'll be talking about A Matter of Principles, The Heart's Warming Club, and Friendship University. Until then, as always, thank you all for watching, and keep shining on, every pony!